Hi, my name is Lucy. Welcome to my vlog. I am autistic and have OCD. I was diagnosed late and am sharing my journey to raise awareness, break down the stereotypes and try and provide help to others who may find themselves in a similar position. Please like and subscribe if you want to learn more about what it's like to live in a world not designed for you. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Autism's Alright. Please, if you like what you see, click like and subscribe for more videos. Today I kind of wanted to talk about autistic burnout, seeing as I'm just recovering from quite a bad one myself. The reason why I want to discuss this today is because I feel like there's a very clear lack of understanding between neurotypicals and autistic people about what burnout actually is. So when you say to a neurotypical person, I'm autistically burnt out, they automatically associate it to their type of burnout, which is fair enough because a neurotypical person will not ever experience an autistic burnout because they're not autistic. So I wanted to just clarify the differences between autistic burnout and actual just normal run-of-the-mill burnout. So for me personally, autistic burnout, it happens when you're forced to live in a world that it's not designed for you. So you're already putting in extra effort to try and, go to work, clean your house, make sure you stay on top of if you're on medication, for instance. And I cope with my everyday life using routines, which I've discussed before. So I'll use routines to give me comfort in order for me to cope with what goes on in my day. And then I also have like sensory days and recharge days between my job and things like that to try and just keep at a level, keep my glasses as full as possible. So for this video, I've kind of got like a visual aid, which is actually like a glass, which is full of water. I did try and put some little diluting juice in so you can see it better. And I wanted to show you that basically autistic burnout, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over days, weeks, months of things impacting on your life that for me personally tends to be out of my control. And I try my best to deal with things that are not in my control. But ultimately these things, they pile on top of each other to a point where my brain just eventually breaks. And there's just, when it gets to that point, there's just literally nothing I can do about it other than remove myself from life, basically, if I can. So that could entail me taking mental health days from work, which I've had to do with this burnout. And it could also, just literally remove myself. So for me to recover from this burnout that I've just had, it meant me coming off my phone, off all socials, just basically allowing my brain to not be forced to do anything that I personally didn't want to do, which involved me not speaking to anyone really, not engaging with people, as I said, calling into work, so I wasn't under the neurotypical pressure of masking. And I mean, this burnout for me, it started in July. I had a lot going on. My mum, like personally, I had a lot just going on with having to look after my mum. So I was like having to stay overnight sometimes at my mum's house, which is quite far away from where I live. So, that for me, that's a change in routine, that's a change in my home comforts. I don't have as many things there that are sensory for me, because although I grew up in that house, it's not my home anymore. My home is where I've been for the past 10 years. So it's very difficult for me to kind of transition from being where I know everything to going backwards in time almost. And it puts an impact on my energy. So my glass loses a little bit. So it then becomes like a little less full. Then I had my PIP trial, which was a massive energy consumption for me, because it was pretty much an hour of me defending my autism and going through how difficult life is for me and how much I have to do in order to sustain what from the outside looking in is a normal successful life. A lot of people other than my partner and my stepson, I guess, they don't see the energy and the efforts that go into me having to, put up a mask. Like, basically it's just masking, that's all it is. So me going into work, me making phone calls as part of my job, everything's like an act. So what ends up happening is it becomes just this roundabout of going into work, coming home from work exhausted, having a bit of recharge when I get home. Normally I'll have like half an hour, and the things I do to recharge can be anything from reading a book, watching a program that's half an hour long, or just simply chilling in silence, basically just allowing myself to like gather my thoughts, recharge from the day. But when you're looking after somebody, or you've got things out of your normal routine, of which lately I've had quite a lot of stuff out of my routine because I'm also planning a wedding, it then starts impacting on my autism and the autistic symptoms that I often present, but in a really negative way. So it makes me way more vulnerable to neurotypical people. I'm going to my mum's, I've got wedding planning, and I'm not in my usual routine. So the glass all of a sudden goes from being quite full to pretty much half empty. So I'm now trying to sustain, like, going to work and doing everything that I need to do, that I want to do to be successful, that I enjoy doing, on a half empty glass. And with the lack of my usual routine of recharging, it stays half empty. So I'm already have a disability, being autistic, and I'm now performing to a level that is subpar to what I would like to perform at. And I'm literally just scrambling, trying to get by. But then what tends to happen, and is what's happened in the past few weeks, is it starts affecting my work because my executive function goes out of the window. So I'll do things out of character, or maybe not have the same level of energy in work or at home or anywhere really that I would normally have. And it's hard to spot because I to be honest, I just don't like asking for help. And you end up getting into a point of, you've got a good reputation or an excellent reputation at work, and you don't want to feel like you're letting people down, and you've got a mum to look after. And I am lucky, like I do have a lot of support. Like my brother's been up from London and he's pretty much took on most of it, but there's still been instances where I've had to go at short notice to sort things out, and things haven't been going as well as what we would have hoped with surgery. So it's just a case of having to deal with that, call doctors, NHS, wait for the NHS to ring you back, which at times it's been at 1:30 in the morning. And then you're already not sleeping very well because you're not in your own house, your own bed, and then you've got like work the next day, and you'll get to work and something will go wrong at work, and then it's like you start thinking like, I can't actually do anymore, like I cannot physically or mentally do anymore. But then you're like, I can't actually not afford to not do it, so you start trying to push through it, and then the glass becomes even less full. So now you're literally running off this because you've been thrown out of your routine. You're now physically exhausted as well as mentally exhausted. But my activities personally go out of the window. I don't engage in my usual running, cycling. I was starting to get the bus out of desperation just to get to work. I couldn't really get I couldn't really work from home because I wasn't motivated enough to actually do my work. So I was going into the office, even though I do have the option of working from home, just to be around other people that were doing the same job as me. So I was able to try and pluck up some motivation and do it. And I was just fighting this constant battle, and it's like partly it is my fault because, like, you know, I've got a support network like at work, but I hate burdening people and I hate being defeated by autism. So my partner tends to, when this is happening, we're very good at communication, and he'll see it in me anyway. But we kind of, you know, we'll push each other to go to the gym or do a swim, or whatever it is that we both need, because he also uses exercise for his own mental health. So we'll try and do that together. And that helps, but it's a plaster on a big wound basically that's already going on. And the problem is, like, when you're looking after somebody else and you're trying to manage your own routine, it's just impossible to do, because you can't manage a routine around somebody else where things are very unpredictable and out of control. My big thing for me is work does provide me with a sense of routine, but for some reason, like lately, it's not been, I don't know how to say it, but it's just not been lighting my fire. And that's where you have to take a step back and just be like, what's going on? Like, is this the job? Is it just that my mental health is battered and I can't actually do anything anymore? And for me, it's the latter. If I'm truly honest with myself, it's the mental health of being autistic and trying to, like, being autistic is it's fine. There's nothing wrong with being autistic, but the problem lies where you're trying to be neurotypical and you're not neurotypical, and eventually all that ends up happening is you just become like a cloak of imposter syndrome comes over you. So for a while, I can perform and be like, I'm not, I literally will be like, I'm not autistic. And especially with that PIP thing as well, like, they make you feel like you don't deserve extra help because all of the stuff you tell them you're struggling with, it's like you don't have it. And I had 18 months going back into with the Department for Work and Pensions of them telling me, no, we understand your difficulties, but you just don't deserve this additional help. And me telling them, no, you don't understand, because if you did, you'd give me the additional help that I need. Like, that money that you get off PIP, it's there for people with disabilities to help them. So I can now pay for a cleaner to take off some pressure within our household. It means that, you know, once every fortnight now, someone will come in and clean my house, and I don't have to worry about it. I can come home and it'll be clean. And that takes a massive pressure off both me and my partner. Like, I don't want to burden my partner with things like extra cleaning and just the house becoming cluttered and a mess, because I'm not the type of person that burdens people with my problems. So if I can provide a solution to that problem, which is hire a cleaner, I'm going to do it. To me, it's a help, and that's what that money's for. But when you've got DWP on a point system, and even the judge was like, your struggles just don't fit the criteria for PIP. Like, they struggled to put my points that I deserve into a bracket. So eventually they were like, this is what we're rewarding you based on this, because this is all the bracket is. And that tells you, a judge is saying that the PIP it's not suitable for people with certain disabilities, because it's not set up for people with certain disabilities, even though you're told to apply for it if you have like certain disability. So you end up in this situation where your glass is like this, you've got everyone expecting you to be your glass like this, and eventually the last little bit, and it could be because you've been trying to do it, it goes, it disappears. And that's what happens with autistic burnout. Like, your glass ends up empty, and when your glass ends up empty, there is nothing you can do about it. And all you can do is take a step back and literally remove yourself from every situation that takes that little bit of water or energy from your glass. And once, the scary thing about autistic burnout for me is you just don't know how long it's going to last. It could last a day, it could last weeks. Mine's lasted probably a month, but it got really bad toward last week. Like, everything was just awful last week for me. Like, work, home life, everything was just terrible. And the problem with that was my glass was already 3/4 full, empty, sorry. So I only had like a quarter left. And then when everything kind of fell off a cliff last week, I had nothing to kind of jump back in with that. So I took the decision to go, I ain't doing this no more. I'm not going to work. I'm not cleaning. I'm not tidying. I'm not doing anything. It had been, you don't look after yourself when you're in burnout. You literally just try and survive in the world. So you literally, like, showers go out the window. I realised I hadn't had a drink of water for 4 days, hadn't had a shower for 4 days, hadn't done any exercise for 4 days. In fact, the last time I had a shower was when I went swimming, and I was trying to get the bus into work, which was, I hate getting the bus, I'm not gonna lie, but I didn't have a car because I just don't have a car at the moment because my brother's using that to help with my mum. So I don't have the option, but I was too exhausted to cycle into it, which is what I would normally do. So it just became a absolute roundabout of exhaustion. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And my fella, when he sees this, he's like, yeah, he checks in, makes sure I'm okay, does whatever he can, and he knows it's because I just don't take time off work. I don't take time off for myself unless I'm at that point where it's desperate. And it was got to a point where it was just desperate. And then you get, well, it's, everyone's burnt out, but the thing is, most neurotypical people would struggle to balance like a full-time job, be going back into on 40-minute car rides to look after, a parent that's just had surgery, and then also have to deal with the consequence of the NHS like not providing the care that it needed to stop certain things happening that have now happened, which now has resulted in like further treatment, which is now out of our control. It's like put a massive setback. And I'm not criticising the NHS, but at the same time, like, I just can't sit here and be all like, oh, I agree with doctor strikes and nurses strikes and this, that and the other, because I don't agree with it. Doctor strikes and nurses strikes, it's caused problems for patients. And had my mum had knee surgery at the beginning of the year instead of the middle of the year, would the outcome be better? Probably, because she probably wouldn't have needed the extensive surgery that she needed. And even by the time she got in there, the doctors were like, don't know how you're walking, we just don't understand. And I guess I get the whole not asking for help a lot off my mum, because my mum's the same kind of person. She just like struggles through. But luckily, because I have been going around, I have been taking care of my mum, I've spotted things like signs of infection and, sorted out having carers come in to change her dressing, which is something the hospital didn't do. So I rang our doctors, family doctors, brilliant, and they've now got her on a list. So, but I've had to sort that, and I shouldn't have been in a position where I needed to sort that, because the NHS, doctors, nurses, they should have sorted that. They should have been like, okay, this isn't right. And that's put like a big burden on my family, and it's a burden that we shouldn't have had to carry. And it's because the state we're in at the moment is just diabolical, literally, the country. So when you're trying to live with a disability in a country that is on its knees, basically, it just becomes really impossible. And then other people get frustrated, pressures increase with other people, and their lack of understanding seems to go worse and more down the pan. So you end up being questioned for why do you have this and what's going on with this. And yeah, it's hard being open and honest with having a disability, because from the outside looking in, when you're masking as well, like, people don't understand there's an issue. But at the same time, like, if you're normally a person that communicates via social media and all of a sudden you're not communicating, and if you're normally a person who holds yourself to high standards and then your work drops and it's not at the high standard it usually is, and things aren't looking how they normally look, instead of it being all negative and like negative stuff, there should be, is everything okay, what's happening, what's going on. And I just feel like what's that saying, like, with the whole everyone's in the same storm but not everyone's in the same boat or something. So like, we're all in the same storm together but not everyone's in the same boat of the storm. And it's just so true for like autistic people. And like, I've got like a disability parking badge now, because the judge has decided that I needed it or whatever. And to be fair, like, he decided it because, like, traveling for me does cause me big stresses, like, getting somewhere on time, not being able to find a parking space, like, that can literally cause me burnout, meltdown, shutdown, severe, like, as they describe it in the descriptor, severe psychological distress, purely because if something isn't simple, or if something just changes a routine, then for me it's just hampers my whole day. And I've said it before, like, it's just like, I'll bite my tongue and deal, but then sometimes I just can't, and sometimes I just want to be left alone, and for people to understand, like, I don't need help or support, I just need to be left alone and to just let my brain kind of regroup and find its energy, find its inner peace again, which is not always simple. But one thing I would say about, if you are going through autistic burnout and, you're worried about the consequences of calling in sick or just being selfish, basically, is you shouldn't, because at the end of the day, the only person who can really care for your brain and your sanity is you. No one else can look after that. And I learned a long time ago, like in my 20s, that pushing through things and trying to be a people pleaser and trying to do what you think everyone else wants you to do, it just gets you absolutely nowhere. All it gets you is literally just drained and unmotivated, and you end up going on this roundabout of trying hard to please people and then just feeling like what you're doing isn't enough. So then you try harder and then it's just never enough. Like, it's just never ever enough. So honestly, like, this burnout, I got rid of my socials, which helped me massively. So that kind of regrouped some of my stuff. I also got rid of my just pressure. I was just kind to myself, which filled me up more. And I also had a very long shower and did some self-care, which is also very, very important. And then I just forgave myself and did what I love to do. So I went for a swim and I did some wedding planning, which is actually the more fun bits of it. So well, to be fair, my fella basically sorted out some stuff and finally started doing some stuff which was stressing me out with that he was leaving a little bit too last minute. So my fella, you know, he gave me back some of my energy because he took off a lot of pressure, which I really appreciate. And then I slept, and sleep was the last thing that I needed. So I got back my glass of full energy. So that means that I'm now kind of mostly recharged. So that's a good thing. And it's only took 4 days, which is kind of a miracle based on how I was feeling on Friday, which I thought it was going to take 3 weeks, if I'm honest. But because I took quite quick action of this is what I need to do, and then I had the support to do it, it was easier for me. Well, not easier, but like it helped me speed up my recovery. Also, I am actually really lucky that I do have a manager who gets it, so it's not actually that bad when I ring up and say I'm doing this because I need to do this, and they understand that I need to like recover, and it's like a last resort kind of thing. So a take home for me from on this is, I don't know, maybe speak up a bit sooner and not let things, it's hard to say, like, to not let things get to you when you suffer with that rejection sense of whatever it is, like when you get like negative feedback or someone's like a little bit critical of you and you just literally think you're gonna get called into a room and get sacked, or like, it's just ridiculous. Like, it's just so ridiculous, like how my brain sometimes works. It's the most logical but illogical brain at the same time. It's just so, I can sit and solve a problem, but then a lot of the time I create own problems in my head because of how illogical my brain sometimes is. And that's just autism. And that's the difference between autistic burnout and neurotypical burnout. And if anyone's got any suggestions on how to spot it, I mean, my telltale signs are, like, I tend to disengage quite a lot from activities. I'll feel really physically exhausted, so I might plan on going to the gym or something in the evening, but by the time I get home I'm literally too exhausted to even think about going to the gym or like, normally when that happens, like, it's a case of either my partner will go, come on, let's go, or we'll just decide to sack it off completely and just go and walk the dogs and kind of have a chat about our day. And it's free therapy, so it's like, it's all good. But that's one of the other things as well, is like, I really miss my dogs when I'm at my mum's, because my dogs provide me with such a sense of like comfort and security, and I don't know, like, they're just so unjudgy. Like, you get home and they're happy to see you, and there's no expectation other than, even if I didn't feed my dogs, they wouldn't hate me. But I would never not do that, because like, I love my dogs and they do tend to tell me if they've not been fed. So yeah, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But this is quite like a brutally open and honest video about autistic burnout and my struggle with it, and I just hope it helps somebody, because you're not alone. And you know, all the imposter syndrome and everything else, it's normal for us autistic people and neurodiverse people, sorry. So yeah, just be kind to yourselves and just do you, because that's all, at the end of the day, that's all you can do. Thanks for listening.